Good morning. I'm Carlos Bernales, Policy Analyst at the Vegas Chamber. I'd like to thank you all for tuning into our conversation with Nevada Credit Union industry members and the Vegas Chamber President and CEO, Mary Beth Sewald. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to explain some features of this call. In order to preserve high sound quality, we'll be muting everyone in the call besides presenters to make it easier for everyone to hear. If you'd like to ask a question, there are a few ways you can do so. If you're joining this call on the web or through the mobile app, you can ask a question by using the chat feature on the interface. We'll ask a question on your behalf. You can also ask a question by clicking on the hand raise button on the interface. We'll call you, unmute your line so that you can ask your question. Once you have asked a question, we'll remute your line so everyone in the call can hear the answer. In order to preserve time, we ask that you please keep questions brief, and we'll be taking all questions at the end of the call. And now please welcome the Vegas Chamber's President and CEO, Mary Beth Sewald.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on today's teleconference with Chamber member credit unions, including the SCE Credit Union, Silver State Schools Credit Union, WestStar, America First, and Clark County Credit Union. This webinar is intended to offer you guidance today and information on what's being done to help businesses access emergency capital provided through the CARES Act and how your credit union can help as well. The Vegas Chamber has been working really hard. I want you all to know that, working so hard to make sure that the needs of our businesses as well as employees are kept top of mind as our state and our nation respond to the impacts of the coronavirus. Also, as resources and new information become available, the Vegas Chamber is always working to continue to convene these teleconferences and webinars so that we can provide you with the very latest information. On that note, please mark your calendars. Vegas Chamber members are invited to join us on Friday, April 17th at 9:30 a.m. for a special teleconference version of Eggs and Issues with U.S. Congresswoman Susie Lee. Congresswoman Lee currently serves as the chairwoman of the Technology Modernization Subcommittee of Veterans Affairs, as well as on the Education and Labor Committee. She's also involved in New Dems and Problem Solvers Caucus. She'll give us the latest information from Washington regarding federal resources that will be available to you, hopefully by then. We look forward to having you at the special edition of Eggs and Issues with Congresswoman Lee. Also, as a reminder, all of our webinars and teleconferences are posted and available to you 24/7 on vegaschamber.com and the Vegas Chamber's YouTube page. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our panel of experts. Joining us today are Mike Campion, Director of Branches, SCE Federal Credit Union, Scott Arkills, President and CEO, Silver State Schools Credit Union, Rick Schmidt, President and CEO, WestStar Credit Union, Blake Weathers, Senior Vice President of Business Services, America First Credit Union, and Josh Haldeman, Chief Lending Officer of Clark County Credit Union. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we start taking questions, and I think they're coming in here, but I'd like to hear from you all if you could kind of give us an idea of what your status is, because I know the banking industry has had some issues. Are you experiencing similar? And anyone can feel free to chime in there.
This is Blake. I think everybody's feeling issues, and part of the issues we're feeling is because the banks had a really hard time. Some of the banks are so large, they have a really hard time of handling this massive volume that's coming in, and some of it's rolling over into us. So yeah, it just creates this, because the government's been a little slow in rolling it out. It's created confusion and issues for, I think, all of us, because the volume's off the charts. And just to explain that, I think in the Nevada area, they probably do about 5,000 loans a year in the SBA program, and I would suspect there's institutions doing 5,000 in a week now. And so to try to funnel that all through a system that's really only set to do that in a year has really caused some issues.
Yeah, this is Mike with SCE Federal Credit Union, and to add on to that is, I think a misconception is, that you have branches and bankers who aren't really doing certain things, so there's a lot of bodies to help process some of these loans, and that's really not the case. I mean, you have folks that are working and that have never dealt with, some of the tasks that they're being asked to do, so it's just taking a little time, and I can assure everyone that everything's being done very fast behind the scenes to try to get us up to speed to be able to, to provide the support we need to be able to fund these loans.
And this
Okay,
is
very
Josh.
good. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's also a run on information. When the program was first laid out, there's been changes since then, and so we're all trying to stay on top of it. And it's important that our members and that members in the business community also stay on top of it. I thought the webinar you guys had yesterday was fantastic with lots of great information and updates. And so I think, a lot of us, we need to make sure that we're staying on top of this information. And then we're also working as hard as we can to process. I was talking to a dentist and, they're just having a hard time understanding what the lag is. And I said, oh, well, look, imagine a day you do 12 different patients. Well, now you have 1,200 patients lined up. Doesn't matter how good of a dentist is and how fast you hire staff, you're going to be slowing that response time, unfortunately. And so there's just such an inundation of requests, and the slow up may not necessarily be on the credit union side. It's getting bottlenecked on the SBA side as well. So trying to get the E-Tran numbers and all those things figured out. So there's just a big bottleneck of things going on.
Mary Beth, this is Scott Arkills, and I would agree with what's been said. And the whole thing is too is consumers are a little bit confused by by what their next step is too. And so we're seeing an unnatural run, obviously, on things like forbearances and that type of thing and the deferrals. And so I'm staffing up each of our respective shops to make sure that we're handling those things as quickly and efficiently as possible has been really a key thing. And so and I think what's important, I think, to all of us is there's no one source of communication that any one member uses, and so you've got to really touch them in every single way to make sure that we're reaching them.
Okay, very good. And I'm going to start asking the questions, and I'll let you all chime in as you see fit. We haven't had a panel quite this large to date, so I think that'll be a good way to do it, not to step on each other, but I think instead of me calling on you, I'll just let you all chime in. The first question is, once the funds are received, are they forgivable if we can document that it was all for payroll?
Yeah, this is Josh Haldeman at Clark County Credit Union. And so I would say yes. The answer is that's yes. And one of the things you got to make sure that you're very careful with how you earmark and use these funds. Suggestion that we've had that we're offering up is open up a separate checking account for those funds as they come in. That way it'll be so much easier to track them. There's no mixture, commingling of funds. So, it's going to be easier to get check copies and things like that. The latest that I read was that if 75% of those funds are used for payroll purposes, there's other caveats involved there as well, and that's where you got to make sure, again, that you're up to date. Your payroll figures from February need to be matching what they are 8 weeks after you receive those funds. So just make sure you're on top of those details and read all the fine print.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that answer.
This is Blake on that.
Sure,
Sorry, I was
Blake.
a little late. I had to unmute my phone. So he had great explanation there of what that is, and you want to be real careful. Our job here, the credit unions, is to make sure we get you the right amount, not some nefarious amount, but the right amount, and then we make sure you get your maximum amount forgiven. And honestly, some at the end of the day when this comes due might have some loan left over. And you got to consider that. So, and it's hard to tell. Like he gave great explanation. You got to have 8 weeks after you get the funds. You got to have it look like it was in February, and you got to carry that out a little bit. So, great explanation. But yeah, at the end of this, there might be some money left owing. So, you just got to be cognizant of that.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question. We are with one of the big banks. While we've applied, they keep moving the goalposts on what's required. Do you recommend we try applying with PPP through a credit union? And are you taking any new customers at this time?
So this is Josh. I'll just keep talking, I guess. it's tough because a lot of people they're saying right now, hey, we're going to take care of our members and or our clients and things like that. And it's a tough situation because, again, you go back to that bandwidth question of, do I hop off out of this line? It's like every time I go to the grocery store, I get in the long line, and then I try to switch lines to the shorter, it ends up being longer. And that's what you don't want to have happen with you in this particular situation. And so, what I would say you can do is keep that application with your bank. It definitely would not hurt to put in, because if your credit union or another institution is able to get that E-Tran and get that information processed quicker, then that's a win for you. What you want to make sure, though, is that, you're not signing two sets of loan docs. That would put you in a really bad situation. And so if you can, put yourself in another line, and maybe the queue at a local credit union is going to move faster than a queue at the big bank, then that could be a win for you.
This is Mike Campion. This is Mike with SCE. Something I think the business owners should consider is that when they apply sometimes online with particular credit unions or banks, that it could be funneling through a network, not necessarily that particular bank or credit union, although I think the larger banks probably are doing in-house. So again, some of those loans that will go into a network and will be sent up to Lindio, which is a processing company. So that's something to consider also. Even though you may apply at a credit union, it may not be processed within that credit union. It could be sent out to a network. So it may be good to kind of find out who is actually doing it in-house, and are they capable of taking on more apps with more of a individual attention to it.
This is Blake. One thing about the program is if you get approved with a group and they get the SBA approval, then if somebody else tried after that, they wouldn't be able to approve it. So the system's designed to stop that. So once you get the approval, you're set. It just might be a day or two till funding comes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. The next question is, after our initial chamber call, I submitted an application online to the SBA directly. They pulled my credit and I received a confirmation and application number. Now the site where I applied no longer exists. There's no place to verify my status. Do I need to reapply online, or do I have an application in process, and should I contact a lender?
That's a tough question to fully answer without having more details. It sounds like the initial application may have been through one of the different programs that you were applying where they were applying directly through the SBA. And that kind of comes where initially there was lots of different information coming out that you could apply directly to the SBA, that banks were not going to be involved with it. And so, I mean, it's tough to answer that question without having more details.
Yeah, Mary Beth, on that scenario, if that person wants to contact us, if you want to provide a direct email to me, I'll be happy to take that information and get some answers for them, so I can get them some direct answers. This is Mike at SCE.
Okay, Mike, thank you. We'll get that contact information, and also if that person is still listening on the line, I'm sure they are, they know that they can contact you as well, but we'll do whatever we can to put you in contact with each other. Okay, the next question, is it possible to lay off employees while waiting for the loan to be approved?
You know, there's lots of gray area with this, and that's I got to emphasize more and more. You got to make sure that you're in the details with everything that's in the plan. And from my understanding and reading of it is, first of all, the intent is for these funds to be used to help out with that payroll expense, to help out with some mortgage expense and other things like that. And so, if you have to lay folks off in that interim until you receive the funding, I don't necessarily believe that you will be penalized for that. But again, with the caveat, you got to keep in mind that 8 weeks after that funding, you need to have your payroll numbers, your number of staff needs to be equivalent to what it was at that February 15th date.
Right. Yeah. The intent is to bring those folks back. So if you've laid them off or you plan on laying them off, the whole intent is to get them back, get them paid, and then keep you afloat. and then we'll see what the government does if they're going to extend anything out or give additional resources.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Next question, let's see here. Regarding the 25% portion for non-payroll costs, are we limited to 2 months of utilities and rent, or can we pay late rents and utilities as well as rent and utilities for the 8-week loan period?
That doesn't sound like anyone's jumping in, but let me just, some guidance I would recommend is when you're getting into utilities and rent, I think the one thing that you're hearing in all these webinars and like he was alluding to the call you had yesterday, is there's a lot of reference to go back and talk to NV Energy, talk to your landlord, talk to the mortgage company, talk to your creditors, and ask for time, because again, most of this resources has to go to payroll, and there should be some, again, like Scott said, forbearance or some plans set up so that you can maybe delay paying some of these other utilities or payments. But does anyone else on the panel have anything to add to that?
Yeah, this is Josh at Clark County Credit Union. I don't have anything to add to that. I would just be cognizant, getting the details. I would recommend that I would just pay it for that time since the crisis, just for my sake. To be safe on that, I would, rather than chance having a utilization of funds that isn't proper.
So Mary Beth, this is Scott Arkills too. I think a lot of us are kind of slow to respond because a lot of this has to do with the Treasury note itself, a lot of the questions being asked here. And so I think all of us have, and we can assist again with by having people call in to us. We do have, legal updates and guidelines on that. But as usual, this is a huge document, this CARES Act document. And so the devil's in the details, and we do have those details, but there is just a ton of guidance on that. And so probably the easiest way for us to answer some of those really in-depth questions is actually to try to provide those updates to you.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. It is very difficult to answer some of these questions because there's, every case is different as well. So either at the end of the call, we will provide or have you all provide your contact information, or we'll post all of your contact information on our website or something like that. But point taken. Thank you for that.
And this is Mike again with SCE, and it's, I think everyone, and I get it, everyone's focused on the PPP, SBA, economic injury disaster loan advance, but we also have other resources and community partners that we can absolutely connect you and your employees and family with that can provide some of that support and when it comes to some personal finances. So again, reach out to any of the credit unions, and that's part of our job and mission, is to provide that information.
Okay, very good. Thank you. This question comes from Audrey Dempsey at Infinity Enterprises. She asks if she should apply for a loan through the SBA or try through the credit union.
This is Blake. There's two different types of loans. So the one that you do apply with the SBA is the economic injury disaster loan, and then the one you apply for with the credit union or your financial institution is the SBA PPP loan, as they call it. So there's two different loans out there, two different ways they go about it. One, you go right to your institution. The other one, you can go right to the SBA.
Okay, great. One question, these two kind of go together. One is, has any business in Nevada received PPP funds yet? But then the next one is, we received our funds yesterday, and the terms stated that it is a 24-month term at 1% and no payments for the first 6 months. Are these standard terms?
Yes, this is Mike. That's what I was aware of, is that it was the 2-year term, maximum is 1%, no payment for 6 months, and with the expectation that if they can prove if they can provide the proper documentation, that it would be it would become a grant.
And it sounds like the second question answered the first one, and that, yes, there have been people that have received these funds.
Right. That's why I read them in that order. Yeah, definitely. Okay. The next question is, we normally pay about 60% of our employee medical, let's see here, our employee medical insurance premiums during the 8-week loan period. May we pay full insurance premiums for our employees to help them and use more of the loan on payroll costs?
This is Blake. You know, it's really tough when you get down to these granular questions on how you should run your business. And like they've said, you got to look at the details of the documents and see, you know, what the forgiveness will allow you. You're going to get 2.5 times your average payroll for 1 month, roughly, is a rough calculation. And so you got to have a plan on how you want to use them, and you want to have a plan that goes along with how you'll receive the maximum forgiveness. So how that works out, that's kind of, it's different for every business.
Yeah, I know a lot of these questions are and this has been the case in all of our webinars. The questions are very specific, and folks just have a lot of questions that apply to their own personal companies as well, much like the next one. I own a fitness studio, and I have 1099 instructors that I need to pay for previous classes and online classes now. I'm trying to apply, but do not have payroll docs as they are requiring. What can be done in situations like this?
So this is Blake. So those, if they're 1099 employees, they can go and apply for themselves. But they won't, the fitness owner, that if she's just contracting with them, the 1099 employees can then go out and apply. They'd have to apply as if they were self-employed. They're the ones that can go get the funds.
Yeah, the PPP loan is not applicable to the 1099 employees.
Okay, very good. Next question. Are there any specifics on what is included in, quote, utilities? Pre-work from home, I would not have thought cell phone expenses would qualify as a telephone utility. However, in the work from home environment, both the cell voice plans and the cell data plans have become vital.
This is Mike.
Blake.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. No, go ahead.
No. Well, I was going to say, yeah, I think a lot of things are changing, very fluid. And again, that's going to somewhat get into a tax question as well, that you may want to get with an advisor on that, because I absolutely will see that cell phones and even percentages of the house used for an office is going to be able to be utilized. Blake, anything you want to add?
Yeah, those are that other expense that's allowed. Those are pandemic type expenses, the pandemic issues that were caused. So I think those could be included. Just how, it's not real clear, but I think so, because those were costs you didn't incur because you had an office space. Now you have to incur those costs. And so those are possibly fit in that other category that is allowed. So it's possible, but again, it's some of those details, like they say, it's just hard.
Okay, very good. The next question. Are the credit unions going to start taking applications tomorrow for the self-employed independent contract?
This is Mike. Yes. As far as we are, as SCE, you can apply online starting tomorrow if you're the sole proprietor, starting April 10th. And again, along with other banks, local banks.
Okay, Great. If we'd like to apply for PPP with one of your credit unions, do we go to your website and quote, apply for a loan? Or is there specific PPP, is there a specific PPP form or contact?
Yeah, this is Josh at Clark County Credit Union, and that's going to vary obviously from credit union to credit union. With us, you can go to our website, which is ccculv.org. And then in our business loan section, there's an area where you can apply. It was mentioned earlier how, different credit unions are handling these where I think very few of us that are on the call are handling them directly through our own institutions. I know that we've partnered with a group who last year was the #2 SBA lender in the nation. They're helping us just to make sure that as things are documented, it's going to be proper for our members and take good care of them. And so, again, if you don't have a relationship with us, by all means, we'd be happy to have you go to the website, contact us. We'll do our best to make sure that you get the customer service that we expect you deserve.
Yeah, this is Mike at SCE as well, and I, again, I would caution anyone that is being told otherwise to go in person. I would say most financial institutions are not doing any face-to-face applications. Almost everything that I've seen, whether it's a bank or a credit union, has been the loan must be done online. So again, we can get into a whole discussion about fraud and how to avoid fraud, whether it's business or consumer related, but it looks like everything I have seen in any regard has been an online application.
This is Blake. I'd just add to that with the pandemic issues, I would suspect that there might be some branches that are actually closed or not using normal hours because they're trying to have social distancing with their staff, and online's probably the best way to get it started and get it rolling.
Mary
Okay,
Beth,
great.
this is Scott.
Sure, go ahead, Scott.
Most of us have several referral spots that we can obviously refer our businesses to, and so we can take care of that. But the gentlemen are absolutely right. The branch is not the way to go. It should be online, and I think all of us have kind of bolstered our call centers and chats and text opportunities, so we can all get back with assistance on that and refer people to the right places.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. Does any of you all have niche customer bases and how you serve those specific? Could you talk about how you serve those specific communities?
Yeah, so this is Josh at Clark County Credit Union, and we've been serving the medical community for a long time, as well as the state, city employees. And so, from a business perspective, we're here to help provide loans. There's a dentist that kind of saw some of this stuff coming up, and so we were able to get them a line of credit to help them kind of with the payroll gaps just until they're able to get, the PPP loan in place. What I would say as well that we've done for our commercial borrowers is we're offering, payment deferrals for them. We're also offering payment deferrals on our consumer loans and our mortgages. And so, but specifically in the medical community, we're reaching out to them, they're reaching out to us, and we're doing our best to get them access to that capital.
Mary Beth, this is Scott Arkills again too. So we serve the education community, obviously, and from our perspective, yes, Clark County School District has been greatly affected by all of this, and but it's also the trailing spouses, and a lot of those obviously are in the service industries, and some of them are small business owners as well. And so really what we've been doing is we've got an emergency relief loan at a very low rate for consumers that are members, and as Josh just mentioned, we're doing payment deferrals. Believe it or not, just yesterday I reported we had $18 million in first mortgage forbearances, 90-day first mortgage forbearances, and as of this morning, we are literally up to 30 million. And so we are forbearing a ton of these things, and it's because people they've been laid off, furloughed, some receiving income, many of them are not. And so we're trying to really offer, as many options as possible. We've also waived late charges and convenience payment fees that we might normally charge as well. And so again, we're doing everything that we can do to help the consumers from that perspective, as well as trying to handle the business, owners as well.
Yeah, and this is Rick from WestStar Credit Union, and our niche is the gaming industry. So obviously we have been front and center in what's been going on here in Las Vegas and also in Reno. And I'm going to echo what Josh and Scott said. I mean, we have an emergency loan program with 0 interest for 6 months. We've been, doing forbearances and loan deferrals on mortgages, consumer loans, credit cards, you name it. We've reduced or eliminated many of our fees. We are doing everything we can to try to help our members through this while they are suffering and wondering what's going to happen, from who's still getting paid and how long are they getting paid and when, God willing, we start getting back to normal. But, if people need help, they just need to reach out. And I think all the credit unions on this call, and certainly all the credit unions in Nevada, will do everything they can to work with the individual to try to make it as palatable as possible while we all struggle through this.
Hey, this is Blake from America First. Yeah, they've said they're doing lots of great things, and everybody's trying to do great things in the community to help out. If you consider what's going on right now, I call this a zero degree of separation. You heard of the 6 degrees, but this is a 0 degree. It affects all of us. And so we're stepping up to help out in any way we can with payments and forbearance and I think with the credit unions represented here, contact any of them and we'll be able to find a way we can try to help you. So it's really good being on with this group. They're, working hard trying to help everybody through this pandemic. So.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. This is a great call. You guys are just an abundance of information, so I really appreciate that, and our listeners do too. Next question is, can you please clarify about 1099 employees being eligible for reimbursement under PPP? This person says we pay them through our payroll, so if you could clarify, that would be great.
This is Blake. Since I kind of answered that question first, but chime in if you have any ideas. So a 1099 they call it an employee, but technically they're contracted work because you might pay them, but they pay the taxes. So that's where the difference lies. And so that's why they can go seek help in this loan program.
And there is specific reference to a bill that specifically says 1099 contractors would have to file for themselves.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Next question. If I apply through the credit union, or any one of the credit unions, what is the turnaround time to be approved and funded for the payroll protection program? What are the costs to me if I go through a credit union to apply for the program?
Yeah, so the terms are going to be the same regardless of where you go. So it doesn't matter which credit union you go to, which financial institution you go to. The PPP loan terms are what they are. So you're not going to get a better deal one through the other. In regards to that turnaround time, that's a tough question to answer, again, just because the analogy I've given is, you got a fire hose full of loan requests coming in, and then you got a drip system trying to pick up all these requests, and the SBA is that drip system. And so, they're doing the best they can to open up bandwidth so that more of these applications can go through. I know there's a sense of panic amongst a lot of the borrowers out there thinking, I got to do this, otherwise I'm going to lose out. And, I think there's a level of that panic that's value, but, I know that the talk on the Hill is that they're going to put additional funds towards this. And so, I think you just got to calm down. It's going to be okay. It's probably going to take 2 to 3 weeks, which in a normal business loan time frame, that's a pretty dang good turnaround time. to get a loan turned around in 3 weeks. And so, you know, if you kind of go with that expectation of, all right, it's going to take me 3 weeks to get this money, then I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how the results end up.
Yeah, Mary Beth, I wanted to kind of level set things for everybody too. And Josh is absolutely correct. You've got a plugged up system. As of yesterday, SBA just reported as of midday yesterday that they had over 381,000 applications for over $100 billion in loan needs from 3,600 lenders. And so you can now typically in a year they take, and this is their annual average, on a good year they take 60,000 applications. They've already within a week received almost 7 times that. So that's kind of what's happening just anecdotally to the system as well. And so I think to Josh's point, I think you know, people are going to receive their funds. It is plugged up, and I believe the 4th iteration of the stimulus plan that I just read about today is they're pledging substantial funds for this program again, because they understand it's the backbone of the United States. So.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you guys for all these great answers. We're getting a lot of 1099 questions, and I know these are going to be repetitive, so I apologize for that. But we're here to serve our members and our listeners on the call today. So I'm going to re-ask a couple of these in the hopes that we can really explain them again and make sure that everybody gets the information that they really need. So I've got 2 more about 1099, but the first one is this. If a 1099 employee applies for a PPP, how does the breakdown of 75% payroll, 25% overhead apply if the only employee is the self-employed person?
I'm not sure how this Blake. I'm not sure how we answer. Again, I'm not sure how we answer that. That one's still sitting in the hopper a little bit, but that 1099 employee has expenses, even though you're paying. So that's how they would have to do that.
And part of the verbiage in it is that the PPP extends coverage to 1099 employees, and they would have to furnish documentation where there's 1099 miscellaneous and their P&L statements to establish eligibility. So I really think the continued message is that if your business is paying 1099 employees, whether it's yourself or whoever, you will not be able to include that for your own business when you are applying for the PPP. It just doesn't apply to anyone you're paying 1099, anyone you're paying that's a 1099.
Okay, here's another 1099. It says, I know this has already been asked and answered. Can you clarify what programs a contracted 1099 EE can apply for and when they can apply?
This Blake, they can apply for the PPP loan, and if they're self-employed, they can start submitting those applications on Friday.
Tomorrow.
And so,
okay.
Real quick, sorry to interrupt. Going back on the payroll, 75%, I'm the only expense. I don't think that necessarily matters. What it is in order to get that reimbursement, you need to have at least 75% of those funds need to be used towards payroll. So if it was all towards payroll, that would be okay. So if you don't have rent or mortgage, then that's going to be all right.
All right, excellent. That pretty much wraps up our questions today. Could we go down the list? A lot of folks are really interested in knowing what is the best contact information for either you all or folks at your organizations. If we could maybe give that information out. Let's start with Mike at SCE Federal Credit Union. How would you like folks to connect with you?
Yeah, feel free to call me. I'll give you my number, and again, you may share that on the chamber website. But my direct phone number is 702-852-8255. 6201. Again, it can route through me. I'll be happy to get you an answer or get someone to follow up with you. But you can also email me. I'm sure Mary Beth can share that directly as well. And again, we have lots of resources. We have lots of community partners that we work with. We have our director of community engagement that has tons of resources as well. That again, we're here to also help your employees and families. So outside of the PPP, there's all kinds of programs and resources that we can provide some guidance. So I'm happy to do that for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Scott, at Silver State Schools Credit Union, how would you like for folks to contact you or your organization? Okay, did we lose Scott Arkills? All right, we can.
No, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
unmute. But yes, so the best person to reach at our organization is Nikki Johnson, who's our AVP of Business Banking, and I can give you a direct phone number, 702-939-8616, and then email is N as in Nancy Johnson at silverstatecu.com.
Okay, great, Scott. Thank you so much. And then Rick Schmidt at WestStar Credit Union. Contact information.
Best to reach us would be area code 702-791-4777. And they can, the folks in the call center can direct you to the appropriate person based on what your specific question or need is.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Rick. And then Blake Weathers at America First Credit Union.
Yeah, so it'd be americafirst.com. And you can go to the website. It has all sorts of information, I'm sure, like the others do. There's a hotline. It's 801-215-5557 that they can call in on and get some information and get some help, and be happy to answer any questions they have.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Blake. And then Josh at Clark County Credit Union.
Yeah, the best would be to send an email. It'll be to commerciallending@cccculv.com. So Clark County Credit Union, Las Vegas.com. So commerciallending@cccculv.com.
Okay, Josh, thank you. And thank you all today for being on the panel. You have all been just tremendous, a wealth of information, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate the service that you're providing and trying to help the Vegas Chamber get this information out to not only just our members, but the entire community. So I just want to thank you again on behalf of all of us at the Chamber and our trustees and our members and the community. Thank you so much.
Mary,
I want to thank everybody also. Yes. Go ahead.
The only thing I wanted to add, and I want to really reiterate, is just for everyone to watch out for those scams. We're seeing a lot of the crooks are looking for opportunities, and it's here. So I just really would want to make sure that if anything, I'm really getting across to not to fall for those scams. I know everyone's eager to get money, but use caution.
That's a great tip, great information. I know those scams we're hearing a lot more about those every day. So thank you for that. Thanks everybody for joining us on today's call. As always, as resources and new information become available, you can count on the Vegas Chamber to keep you informed. So, and call us anytime as well at the Chamber. Check out our website at vegaschamber.com if there's anything else we can do for you. All right. Thanks everybody and have a great day. Bye-bye.